So knowing your company, knowing your hiring managers, um, having hired for them before, knowing the personas of the people that are top performers on their team goes a long way.
Today we get to speak with Saad Reza. He's the reason I've been part of the Team Velocipede and rode my road bike over 1,500 miles in the better part of 2017. I was introduced to him as a cyclist back in 2016 and we've been friends ever since. Saad is a go-to mentor and facilitator to all things cycling and family meetups. He talks about his love and passion for cycling over the years, from BMX to mountain biking to road and gravel. Then we jump in to talk about his profession as a recruiter and in human resources. Being an extrovert, he keeps connected to the folks he recruited over a decade ago and is really good at connecting and building relationships. So let's listen in to this conversation between friends. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. Want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Saad, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I've
man.
been doing it for a while, and it's been a long time coming. So yeah,
I know we've been talking
totally.
about getting you on the podcast for like a year and a half. So I think it's really cool to bring you on because we've been friends for about 5 years now,
Yeah,
and we met through cycling, and it was really fun. Like I think it was our wives that got us connected. Like,
yeah.
hey, my husband's into biking. Is your husband into biking? You guys should meet. But
Yeah,
it's been pretty fun, knowing you, connecting with you, and learning about you, and it's been pretty awesome. And I think you bring a lot of information and a lot of knowledge in cycling, and I think we've both kind of grown in that process of learning about bikes. And you're probably a year ahead of me, and you probably bought more bikes after the first one. I'm still on my first bike. Actually,
which is
technically, it's my second bike because the first bike was my mountain bike, and the second bike was a TT bike that I returned, and then so my road bike that I currently have from 2014. It's a 2014 model. It's done me good. It's done me good for sure.
I think I'm on maybe my sixth or seventh bike now. So gotten into different realms and different trends, and went from mechanical rim brake to electronic shifting, disc brakes,
All these
gravel
things.
bikes. So getting into like different disciplines of cycling. Started off mountain biking and then got into road, and
Hmm.
now gravel's kind of the big thing, right? So,
Yeah,
um, a lot of gravel and like getting on the off beaten path around the sticks where I live now. So it's fun. It's just kind of getting out to nature and kind of that's my just always just been my release. But
that's
just
true.
the paths I haven't traveled on before.
You know what's funny is that every once in a while, or now that it's warm out, everybody's out riding, and I'm like, why are you riding in the hot? You be riding in the cold because you're gonna get hotter. And like I go out there and it's humid. I'm like, I don't want to be riding in this weather. But I remember that we used to go out and ride at like 6 a.m. in the morning when it's still nice and cold, or nice and bearable for sure.
Yeah, and our team, I mean, we've gone from one extreme to the other, right? So, like from single digits, like 8, 9 degrees.
Yeah.
I remember getting a flat tire on one of those rides and having to call someone. My fingers were frozen, couldn't even change that tire. To 100 plus degrees, that plus humidity, right, while fasting, and so it's been both extremes to
Yeah.
like downpour to snow to we've seen all the different things, and that's kind of what shows your passion for cycling. It's a different type of sport, right?
It
So
is,
when you
yeah.
look at the pros, for instance, like it's one of those things where wherever in the world that you live, you have all these different tours coming through depending on the area you live in,
Right,
right? So if
exactly.
you're in like France, or if you're in like LA, like cycling is the only sport that you look down from your patio or look up from your driveway, and it just passes through.
It
So
is,
it's
yeah.
one of those sports, it gets under your skin, and it doesn't leave. And so for us, it's been um, you know it's contagious, and
Yeah, cycling is contagious for sure. So, what I wanted to talk about, today was um your expertise and work, where you come from and what you've been providing as a service to the different companies that you worked at, and what can people do, because we're in a very strange time, and some of the knowledge that you have, I think it's applicable to no matter what time period people would be in. So let's go a little bit into that, and then we can, always come back and talk about cycling. But I think what your unique feature set is, the knowledge that you've accumulated over the years as being expert in your domain. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about Saad, and how it all, how what led you into picking that field of expertise.
yeah. So I've been in the recruiting and HR field for the past 14 years now. I'm an extrovert off the charts. And so I think interacting with people, making those connections, building that rapport on both sides, not just with candidates, but also hiring managers,
Mhm.
understanding, companies' needs and goals to hire. A lot of times it's been high tech companies, software product companies with aggressive hiring goals
Yeah.
that need to be achieved. And, that's something I've enjoyed doing, is helping companies meet their goals, especially when there's a mission attached to it. I've worked at many different companies, and across different fields too. I've even
Mhm.
dabbled in like on the healthcare side of recruiting before, recruiting nurses, OTs, PTs, which is huge right now.
Yeah.
The pandemic that we're in, there's always just going to be a shortage, within that field, as well as IT. Those are the two areas where I guess I've kind of ridden the coattails of the trend where hiring is, you're never going to be able to fill the jobs. Hundreds of thousands of those jobs will go
Yeah.
unfilled every year that are needed. So that's what I've been doing, throughout my career.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something that I enjoy. I keep in touch with folks that I've recruited, a
Mhm.
decade ago, and they reach out to me for my advice and expertise.
Yeah.
From a career path standpoint, what's trending, um, and just to network, right? We all know someone that can help us out.
Yeah.
um, I need help. Other people need help. So it's kind of goes to show, like, what you hear, that is where it's kind of who right?
Yes.
So there's going to be hundreds of people applying to jobs, and if you know that one person that can kind of vouch for you, it's huge.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what are some of the advice that you can, give to people, because it is important on who you know, but I think it's also important on who knows you. Because if people know you for your expertise, for who you are, I think, and if you show up in the world, and I think a lot of that's happening on LinkedIn, and I've seen that trend climb more and more. I think when when LinkedIn started the video platform, I think it's enabled people to showcase their values and their skills and whatnot in different ways, and coming on video. And I think a lot of times, a lot of people are introverts, and it's hard to come out. So what are some of the things that people can do to stand out from the crowd when they're, looking for a job, or if a hiring manager is looking for somebody? So from from each of the perspectives, which one, what are some of the things that they can think about?
Yeah, and so most people that are in the IT field that um, or if they're happy in their job, let's just put it that way, um, they may not update their LinkedIn profile or any other profile, so they're kind of hidden, right?
Yeah.
So you might have joined some years ago, and your profile might not be completely filled out, making it hard for recruiters and hiring managers to actually find you. You're
Hmm.
kind of in like a hidden talent pool, and you may not be looking.
Yeah.
Most people are passive candidates, and that's what honestly companies like. That's what recruiters like. The more passive you are, it's that's kind of what they chase. But if you are on the market and looking, um, definitely there are options on LinkedIn to show that, hey, I'm open to opportunities, what kind of jobs, things like that. Jobs will pop up that you can apply to,
Yeah.
um, and you can kind of set those things up. So the platform has gotten smarter and smarter. I remember I bought stock in LinkedIn before it was purchased by Microsoft.
Yeah.
I've been using LinkedIn, since maybe like 2004, 2005,
Hmm.
that time frame when I first got into
My
recruiting.
first, yeah.
And so it's definitely evolved with some of the features and offerings that they give you. And LinkedIn Recruiter is the gold standard for
Yeah.
job boards, and the tool that most companies and recruiters use to go out there and find talent. So
Mhm.
I think the other thing that'll kind of set you apart, it's your reputation, right?
Yeah.
We can when you go to an interview, they can all ask questions, and we can say, hey, I have this skill set, but how does someone actually know that you have a skill set, right? To build that reputation on there, connect with others, and the platform allows you to do that. um, have others vouch for you and say this person is a subject matter expert in this field.
Yeah.
And when you have overlapping connections, there might be someone at that current company or someone that they've worked with in the past, and that they can go out and actually just say, hey, do you know Junaid? Tell me a little bit about him, his work ethic, his skill set, etc. Should I hire him? And I think that's a lot what goes on in the background that you don't see
Mm.
when hiring decisions are made.
That makes a lot of sense. I think the tools that are available makes a lot of sense. But then again, as a recruiter, you're looking for those hidden gems. So that's really interesting. I mean, I'm trying to think of how to turn that around, or like what's the next step. So as a candidate that's looking for work, would you prefer that they reach out to recruiters or apply for jobs directly through the different systems that are available?
So each company is going to be a little bit different. I've worked at small companies, less than 100 people,
Mhm.
up to companies that are, a million plus people. So, and everything in between, right? And so, one company might not have any resources. They might not have an ATS or access to any job boards. And the other might have three ATSs and, $1 million budget, multi-million dollar budget for tools. And I've worked at both. And there's usually a happy medium where it's something in between.
Mhm.
um, but so from that standpoint, it depends on that process. So some of the bigger companies, the most recent company I worked for was Amazon Web Services.
Mhm.
Obviously a huge outfit, 3,000 plus recruiters there, which is
Wow.
absolutely insane. That was there's a process behind it. And so when you have a job out there, there's a certain lens that we have. I'm recruiting for one particular job, and so when people reach out for other jobs, I don't have the lens into that, and so I have to pass it off to my colleagues, which some of them I might not even know.
Right.
um, having access to the systems and doing that research and looking to see who that recruiter is, who the hiring manager is, and passing them off. And for that, applying is the first step in the process to consideration. Where a lot of other companies, I want to move quickly. I just say, send me your resume through email or however, and let's just jump on the phone and chat and just get you through. And I can usually get them, phone screen. I'll screen them, get them maybe a phone screen, and then on site, video conference, what have you, and then sometimes fill out the application on the back end if we decide to move forward. So a lot of times it's worked like that, but really depends on the companies. Even before Amazon, I was at the White House doing a tour of
Mhm.
duty with the U.S. Digital Service, and
Yeah.
there, with LinkedIn Recruiter, you know, it was one of those things where we couldn't use it. The communication became a presidential record, and so
Oh wow.
we weren't able to use that. So being able to navigate and thinking outside the box when it comes to recruiting tools, and how people reach out to you and how you reach out to them, and you had kind of broached on finding those gems. That's kind of what it was there. It was you're
Mhm.
finding those people, those gems, but a lot of the times, companies that I've been at, the mission brings those people in. It's not like any other company. So like there at the U.S. Digital Service, um, the the mission is really what kind of got people hooked. They would move across the country and move to DC. They'd have to take a certain pay. They had to be U.S. citizens. It was a lot of things to jump through, and then we compressed the time down to actually get someone on board. So and plus they had to be very accomplished and very technical, and
Mm.
their emotional intelligence had to be off the board. So it was really hard. A fraction of people, that would interview would make it. So it was one of those places that was very tough. But if you wanted to make a change for, say, immigration or veterans or students or healthcare patients, and really wanted to change, these industries that are trillion-dollar industries, um, the the scale of that magnitude, was just off the charts. For something like, say, Health and Human Services, that's Medicare and Medicaid, were the projects we were working on there. $3.5 trillion. That's
Wow.
measured in GDP. It's like 4% of like the GDP, and so to
Wow.
be able to impact and influence an industry like that just coming over, and every other healthcare company in the world has to follow that, what CMS and does. That's huge. That's something that people are definitely tied to and attached to, and it's a huge mission. So um
Wow. I think what I hear is when you were at Amazon and being there that there were 3,000 recruiters, it's almost like you were looking for a very niche person. So they're
yeah.
they're niching down each of their recruiters to be focused on just that one specific job type, so they can find the person who's most expert in that area. Whereas in other positions, you're more of a generalist. You'll talk to anybody, and you can basically bring in anybody based on your experience.
Absolutely, yeah. So, for instance, at AWS, I was only recruiting security folks, and I mean, there's all sorts of security folks, but it was security transformation consultants in particular, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just one type of role, and that's what I was doing. Where other companies I've worked at, I've had all of IT and development, under me, and there's hundreds of different positions that I recruit for, everything under the sun, right? From
Yeah.
help desk up to hiring the CIO, right? And so someone reaching out and saying, this is my skill set, and I'm working for this mid-sized company that's, say, like 10,000 people,
Hmm.
that's kind of a good feeling to be able to say, yes, we have something like this, you match the skill set, I
Yeah.
know the hiring manager. Where and there's no right or wrong. There's everyone's style is a little bit different. Some people
Exactly.
like that bigger, pond. Some people like that smaller pond. Um, for myself personally, I found the most satisfaction kind of in those mid-sized companies,
Yes.
where I can still impact and change and influence the process. But then also it's big enough for me to have multiple tasks and do a variety of types of work and make those connections. So no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone, I've had experience in all of them, and it's great. We definitely lean on all of our experiences, and that helps us grow. And I feel like I've certainly grown from every company I've been
That's really awesome. I like that. So it's been a pretty, I mean, 14 years in that space is really cool because you get to learn from all of the different, and you basically stacking on top of each other. And then you are more well rounded than anybody else out there. It's also being able to using the different systems. So that's really cool. I like that. Um, what are so we talked about some of the cycling hobbies that we have, Um, what I wanna I'm trying to figure out where to go because the recruiting space is something that I am not. You know, I'm I've I've not really played a whole lot into. Sure, I've hired a few people to help me with the podcast, and I didn't do a whole lot of different recruiting levels because of I didn't have a huge budget, right?
at.
Um, but I think what's valuable what is one of the things that's most valuable that you find when you're speaking to these candidates?
Yeah, so
Like who make the
everyone's
cut
gonna.
versus who doesn't make the cut?
Well, it really depends, right? So knowing your company, knowing your hiring managers, um, having hired for them before, knowing the personas of the people that are top performers on their team goes a long way. You know, I I've never reached out to, the hundreds of candidates. I started on the agency side of recruiting, and those were our metrics. It's like reach
Mm,
out to 50 to 100 people a day. That ended up being like 10 hours a week of phone time. Um, I never I was never a volume person.
yeah,
I would rather look at resumes and pick out the right people as opposed to just calling every single person I looked at. So understanding those hiring needs and making that match. It's like being a matchmaker almost, right? If
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
all enjoy watching those, Millionaire Matchmaker or whatever those
Yeah.
shows are, and essentially that's what we it comes down to. You have to understand someone's need on one side, and then you're finding someone on the other side and what they're looking for, and making that match.
Yeah.
From a cultural fit, the salary has to line up, the benefits have to line up, the commute, just the working styles, all of those things. There's so many different elements that need to be aligned in order to make a good hire.
Yeah.
Um, but also, you know, so looking at the skill sets is easy enough. Someone's resume has these technologies, the job description has these technologies, easy enough, right? But
Yeah.
I think with technology, since that's the space I've been in, I think being adaptable, right? Learning a new skill, because it is a given that technology is going to change tomorrow, right? There's going
Yes.
to be something different. So that ability, that aptitude to learn and pick up new skills, I have found that not a lot of hiring managers really, kind of look for that or dig in. I have had a few that have kind of said, okay, well, this person doesn't have this skill, but I am willing to take them on because I see that they've learned all of these other skills, right?
Mhm.
So that at Amazon it was more like learn and be curious, right? So going in and tinkering around, it's something that you have a passion for, and on this channel for Hacks and Hobbies,
Yeah.
these are all things that we are passionate about. And so for someone who's passionate about technology, just because they're a programmer in one language, people that have that passion, it's a syntax difference, and so they'll go learn any language.
Yeah.
And what it comes down to is being a problem solver, right? So being challenged in that regard to solving a problem, not just learning one language and then just being a programmer for one language, for instance.
No, that's a really good point. So you're looking at the person that they are versus all the different things that they learned, but then also their aptitude and their um, personality, because you wanna also be able to have that culture match.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. Cool, man. Well, that's really intriguing, and that's really interesting to see. What it is that recruiters look for, and what it is that really makes you stand out as somebody that's applying for the job. Your hobbies and your passions, and how you integrate those into your work work life balance kind of deal.
Yeah, and there's things like GitHub repositories where people are showing off their work and their projects and things like that. When someone has you know their GitHub, you look at it and there's all different sorts of projects on there. That kind of shows that this person's passionate about
Yeah.
their field. When you see them doing like things on the side and involved in meetup groups,
Hmm.
for different chapters, or going to conferences, and being speakers at conferences and things like that. They're invested in the community. It becomes a part of the community. And I had alluded to reputation earlier on,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what helps build your reputation within that community. But now you've got this network of people to reach out. If you're stuck, it doesn't have to be that thinking that just your fellow colleagues have within your same company. Now you can
Right.
reach out to folks outside your company within your community. Um, for instance, like React, that's a really tight knit community.
Hmm.
React Rally, in Salt Lake City. I went there a couple times, and
Yeah.
nice, tight knit, close community. PyCon, that's a huge conference for Python user group.
Hmm.
So I mean, you go and meet people, and there's a lot of information that you can get out there and showcase your knowledge, and that's another thing that would help you land a job. If people see that, hey, Junaid is a speaker at this user experience conference or this
Hmm.
design conference, it shows that you're a thought leader in your field, and that people want that knowledge within
Yeah.
their company. So I'd say, if you can go, even just like volunteer and be a part of it, go set something up.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily be the speaker up there, but if it's something that you enjoy, and there's a topic that you enjoy, I'd say get involved within whatever your field is, with
No,
those groups.
no, that's a really excellent advice, because people want to connect with people. They don't want to connect, they want to connect with somebody who's personable. And when they show the passion, then they can count on you doing the best job possible when they bring you on to the company. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why UX users have a ton of, what's that word? They got to have their portfolio up to date, so people can see what kind of work they've done. And I think the speaker part, I think, or being active in the community of their expertise, is that's a really excellent point. I think I'll have to dig dig a little more deeper into that and see where that's going to take me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Saad, for your advice and your insights into what it takes to land a good position, or a job in the technical space. Either either it be, if you're looking for a full-time or a part-time job. um, that's really awesome. So at this point, I'd like to ask some questions that
Yeah,
talk about your personality.
sure.
All right, so we talked about cycling in the beginning, but what is the one hobby that you wish you got into but didn't get a chance to?
Oh man, I think maybe something like skateboarding. I want to say it just seemed like something cool to do, right? And the older you get, like, I guess your bones become more brittle. You can't wipe out and
Yeah.
take those risks anymore. And so
Yeah.
I think anything when you're starting young, you kind of have no fear and you go out and you learn a thing and then you become an expert at that thing.
Yeah.
But we kind of become chicken as we get older.
We do
And
become
so
chicken.
even with like biking, with mountain biking, I mean, I took it up, I was probably in, I don't know, my early to mid 20s when I started mountain biking.
Mhm.
And even at that point, I couldn't take all those gnarly jumps in those parks where these huge drops and things
Yeah.
like that. You would just bail on that thing, and so now that's kind of the evolution of getting into road biking, and now with
Yes.
gravel cycling, um, kind of the thing behind that is uh, your bike mountain bikes are so capable that we don't have the guts to go along with the capability to what a mountain bike can actually do. So with gravel, it's a little tamer, but now it makes the fun factor a lot higher because you've got this bike that doesn't have all that suspension, but you're still going off road a little bit, right?
Mm,
And so
that
um
makes so much
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Because mountain bikes are for even more gnarlier stuff that we like. Oh, we're gonna do mountain biking, but all you're doing is like I was surfing YouTube and actually I was looking at my own trainer video and I saw this somebody making a manual trainer. I'm like, what the hell is a manual trainer? And there's a term called manualing where you're riding on your rear wheel with the front wheel raised and you're going over bumps and
Mhm,
whatnot. I'm like, this is really interesting. It's almost like a wheelie, but
mhm.
apparently when you're doing a wheelie, you're still pedaling, but in the manual, you're putting the weight behind on top of the rear wheel, so then you can lift up the front wheel. So I was like, that's really interesting. So, when you mentioned about mountain biking, they're really designed for heavy duty, like downhill mountain biking, where you taking all these jumps and you going out over all these trails. But gravel bike is almost like road biking. It's almost like
Kind
an
of a
up,
hybrid between the true.
yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
it's like an upgraded hybrid bike.
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like with a road bike with mountain bike tires, and so
Mhm.
that's basically what I have is the frame I have is open wide, so it's basically a road bike frame with huge opening for mountain bike tires on it, and so
How big
uh,
tires do you have on there?
2.35 inch, so they are
Are
Schwalbe
you
rock
freaking
lasers
serious?
on there, but I can switch a group set or switch my wheel set and put road tires on there or some
Mm,
slicks. And now I can go on a group road ride,
that's
So it's a
pretty
very
neat.
versatile bike. Yeah.
That's really cool. I'll have to look into that because my brother-in-law, he's into ton of biking, and you know that, and he's built he's got like 2 or 3 bikes right now, and one bike he was showing, he's got a 2.5 inch tire, and I think he also got into gravel biking because he's been a mountain biker for a while, and he was like, "Oh, you should get some wider tires on your road bike." I'm like, "Okay, let's measure." And I measured the opening. It's like 40 millimeters is the max opening.
Yeah. It's not,
Can't
yeah. The road
can't
bikes
fit
are meant to be
anything.
lightweight and,
Yeah,
aerodynamic. And yeah. So, but that's the trend. They've been,
that's
even
crazy.
road bike tires are getting wider and wider.
Yeah, yeah. I think
When we
the
started,
largest that I could probably put on mine is probably a 27.
which
So,
yeah, which is pretty good. I mean, I
yeah,
think the average just keeps going up. The trend went very skinny, and
yeah.
then it's back up to, hey, the rolling resistance is actually less the higher it is. So it's not uncommon to see people with 25, 28 millimeter, even 32 mil tires. I've got a set of 42 millimeter slicks
Wow,
for my bike. So it's just the most comfortable road bike.
nice.
But you can
I
go
have
and
to
hit gravel if you want.
I'm gonna have to jump on that, man. I'll have to see what's in the market for me.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What did you want to be when you were a child?
Man, so many things. I think the one that comes to mind is a vet. I loved animals.
Hmm.
And so, I'd find like a bird, it was like dying or like it was dead, and I'd go like bury it and try to nurse it back, or find like these little animals, and try to nurse them back to health. We found a turtle in our it was a box turtle in our garage last week.
Wow.
Uh, so I got home from biking and I opened the garage. I realized I had left one of the garage doors open all night.
Oh
So
wow.
I guess this turtle got in there. It was a pretty big one, big turtle, but it got caught in the glue trap, that like Recon Pest Control puts in.
Oh
They
yeah.
didn't fold it properly, where you would have like it was enclosed. It was just like a
Mhm.
flat glue trap. So saw him in the middle of the garage walking around with this glue trap on him. So we just and that stuff is tough to get off. So
Yeah.
we eventually got it off, and kind of did the whole thing. It just reminded me of like when I was a kid. So me and my daughter did that,
Nice.
with a box turtle, and
So are
got
you
like
keeping the turtle? Or you take him to where do you take him?
yeah, we kept him for a couple of days, and then we let him go in the wild. So it's one of those lessons that needs to be taught, that this is a wild animal. It'll be a
Yes.
lot happier, in this habitat that it's used to,
Yeah.
versus we had a
Living in a
90
little
we have a
box.
90 gallon yeah we have a 90-gallon tank that I was like, let's put it in there. It's empty right now, which is another hobby I need to start up, is with the saltwater fish
Saltwater.
tank.
That'd
Yeah,
be
so I
fun.
think I'll get back into that. I was just cleaning out the garage, and I had all the rocks and the 30 different buckets for like the RODI water, and
Wow.
it's just all the equipment. It's just you got to be a mad scientist to do that, and you need a lot of time and money for that thing. So
Yeah.
um, it's tough to with the biking and the
And the kids,
the
yeah.
saltwater tank. But if you work from home, it's a great hobby.
That's a great
So
hobby to get into. You
uh,
can
you know,
Nice, awesome. All right, next question. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
oh man, I'd say Seinfeld is one of the shows. That one of your my friend Ahmed, you've had him on the show. He's the strongest guy on our team. He just did an Everest and all that. He was really into Seinfeld, and
Yeah.
he got me into it. And I don't think a day goes by where I can't use an example from Seinfeld. It's just very relevant to everyday life. There's always an example I can use from that. So I'd say Seinfeld is one of the shows that it's just a classic. It just touches on aspects that are of life that are true today, and it's just a classic show.
Absolutely. I love that show, man. It's been a very awesome experience just watching through it because growing up, I didn't grow up out here and I didn't watch it till a lot later, but I binge watched it and I would use those I would always bring up those things in conversation at work, and I'm like, "Oh my god, you're on this binge story going on." So that was a ton of fun.
And now you got all these memes that you can use. So
Exactly.
I see some of those at least one every week.
Exactly. All right, next question. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Hmm. Got to play a character in a movie. Let's see. Um, I would say, the show, as well as they had a movie for this. So I was really into that show Entourage, which was kind of loosely based on Mark Wahlberg's life, but then they made a movie about that as well. And so I think being an actor is
Entourage?
something. Yeah.
Entourage?
I know there's probably better examples,
Oh,
but
that's an
like,
awesome one.
but oh, fun fact actually. Entourage the movie, the opening scene starts off on this yacht,
Yeah.
and that yacht was Mike Saylor, MicroStrategy CEO. The yacht was called Usher, which is one
Uh-huh.
of their products. So I got a chance to go on that yacht.
Oh,
So when I was
nice.
on it, I was like, okay, well, this is where all this action was taking place.
You
Like,
gotta do the line.
hopefully they wipe down this red couch before I'm sitting on it. But
No, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
yeah,
If I know a friend of mine, he's a beekeeper also, but he's also on the board for the DC boating club. And he's like, "Hey, anytime you want to go sailboating, let me know." So I'm gonna have to hit him up and see if we can go on the Potomac one of these days. That'd be fun.
nice. Yeah, yeah, it's great. Yeah, getting out on the water.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Who is your favorite superhero?
All right. I know you're big into Marvel and all that. So I would, that the last question I was trying to think of, would I put myself in a movie? And so it's a good thing that you've got this follow up too. So superhero. Let's see who's got the superpowers. That you know, I would want. Uh, I would want to have. Man. I think the Hulk. It's just I've always been into
He's got
bodybuilding since I
raw
was a
power.
kid,
Yeah.
and so just thinking of like Lou Ferrigno playing Hulk, and all that. It's just I've been watching a lot of World's Strongest Man, so
Oh,
like
really? Okay.
Eddie Hall and Half Thor Bjornsson, and which is the Mountain, right, from Game of Thrones, and so all of that stuff. And so it's like, who doesn't want to be the world's strongest man? It's just
Yeah.
this testosterone driven, like, you know just being this alpha male, like it's just it's a powerful feeling,
No,
just being
absolutely.
that
That's
strong.
that's
So
that's too fun. That's too
yeah.
fun. Our last question. If you are a board game, what would it be?
Risk.
Right.
Strategy. So
That's
yeah,
a
it's
that's a
just
fun one.
the strategy, the politics, the all of that, the negotiating behind it. I've always enjoyed that. We've had some epic risk battles that would last all night. 5, 6, 7 hour games of risk
Oh,
until the,
wow.
the morning. And so, um, it's one of those games where if you've got like, a bunch of people that are like committed, like, throughout college and stuff, that was, I think, my favorite game, but it also, the strategy involved behind it. Um, you know, I would say, risk, would be the one that I would uh, kind of associate myself with.
Nice. No, Risk is a fun game. It's a fun strategy, and you're essentially taking risks. And I think you've taken. I don't know if you've taken risks in life, but that is definitely a fun board game to play with friends and family. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. Where can my audience find you if they wanted to get in touch with you and learn more about recruiting and more about landing a job or I'm not sure, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so we talked about LinkedIn. If you're looking for a job, obviously that's kind of where one of the places you would go. So you can look me up, Saad Reza. Um, Currently, I'm just kind of consulting for myself on the side, helping out friends, and mostly like in the DevOps
Yeah.
space, security space, there. And so I do have a few opportunities that I've been posting out there, but I might be landing somewhere else for a company, sometime here soon.
Cool.
But yeah, I think LinkedIn is probably the place to kind of connect and um, kind of understand my background, and that's where I think a lot of my connections are. That's based Facebook. I'm not as active as I should be on other
Mhm.
social media, Instagram, Twitter, etc.
Sure.
I'm on there. I look at other people's stuff, but I never post as much on
You're
there.
not you're not the engaging kind.
It just becomes a little sensory overload,
Yeah,
and I think
it's
it's to
tough.
the
It's not
point.
easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. We'll be sure to include the links to how to get
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure as always. And, can't wait to sample some of that honey from those bees that you've got working for you right now.
You got it, man. Thank you for listening to Hacks and Hobbies. You can find additional information on the guest today on the website hacksandhobbies.com. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming interviews with amazing guests.